Absolutely, because it is going to shape our future. It's shaping our community. It's creating accessibility, connection. All of these are so important when people are determining whether to move here or to stay here. We want everyone to make sure they know it's a well-planned and well-run city.
For sure, it absolutely is, and we have enjoyed such a wonderful relationship with the city of Peoria. You all have just been so
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting of the October 17, 2019 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to order. Thank you all for being here tonight. Appreciate having you. We're going to begin with a roll call. Vice Chair Jay Otluski.
Present.
Secretary Brian Patterson.
Present.
Member Sean Hutchinson. Member Linda Grice.
Present.
Commissioner Clay Alsop. Commissioner Joanna Condi. And alternate Commissioner Tony Fighter.
Present.
All right, we've got a quorum. All right, we begin each meeting with an opening statement, which I'm going to read now. This commission is composed of Peoria citizens who have been appointed by the City Council to serve on the commission as a civic responsibility without compensation. Our duty is to study and review planning and zoning issues within the City of Peoria. The commission hears zoning cases, holds public hearings, or may conduct a study session on a topic. Decisions made by the commission are forwarded as written recommendations to the City Council, who take final action. All hearings are conducted in accordance with the rules for procedures and Robert's Rules of Order. Each case will be called in the order in which it appears on the agenda unless otherwise announced during the meeting. In the interest of maintaining a fair and efficient hearing, the commission adheres to the following steps. Chair will open the case. City staff will then provide a brief report and recommendation. The applicant is then invited to give a presentation. Then any member of the public may provide testimony. Testimony is limited to 3 minutes. When we call your name, please come up to the podium and provide your name and address. After all the testimony has been taken, we'll invite the applicant back up to provide any rebuttal or final statements. And then finally, we'll have commission discussion and decision. Anyone wishing to speak must complete a speaker's request form and hand it to the assistant on my left. Please be as brief as possible and do not repeat statements already made by others. Any member of the public may appeal to the City Council the decision of the Commission regarding a conditional use permit. The appeal must be submitted in writing to the Planning and Community Development Department within 15 calendar days of the date of the Commission's decision. All Commission recommendations on public hearing items, including general plan amendments, rezone, zoning code amendments, and special plans, move forward to a regular City Council meeting. The City Council will then act on the recommendation of the Commission. The City Council may concur with the decision, modify it, overturn it, or remand it back to the Commission for further consideration. We welcome citizens' comments, and as fellow citizens of Peoria, we thank you in advance for your participation. And with that, this is the final call to submit speaker request forms. Again, they're in the back, in the main lobby in the back. If you could fill one of those out and give it to Ms. Ernst, she will get that to me, and we'll call you up at the appropriate point in the agenda. We're going to begin tonight with the consent agenda. We have one item tonight. It's the minutes. Discussion and possible action to approve the minutes of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting held on October 3rd, 2019. Any commissioners have any questions, comments regarding consent agenda? All right, may I have a motion?
Yeah, I'd make a motion, we accept the minutes as presented.
Thank you, Commissioner Otluski. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Please vote. And that passes. We're going to move on to our regular agenda now. Item 2R, Administrative Relief Zoning Ordinance Text Amendment, case TA 19-02. This is a request to consider a city-initiated text amendment to Section 21-102, Conflicting Regulations, and Sections 21-324, known as Administrative Relief of the Zoning Ordinance. Staff, would you please present your report?
Been waiting a while. Thank you, Commissioner Grice. So item 2R will be covering proposed city-initiated text amendment for changes to section 21-102, which is conflicting regulations, and section 21-324, administrative relief. The action needed to be taken on item 2R will require the commission to make a recommendation to the city council for text amendment TA 19-02. Tonight, I will be providing details, which will entail the new language for section 21-102. Basically, that just spells out in black and white that the zoning that's outlined in the zoning ordinance is what is applicable for all properties within the city. The main focus of tonight, though, is the proposed text amendment concerning section 21-324, which is administrative relief. Just as a brief refresher, there are two mechanisms for property owners to deviate from their property development standards. Note, not change their property development standards per their underlying zoning. So the first one is a variance. You'll see the main highlights for variances in bold on the screen. It's a modification to the literal interpretations of the zoning ordinance, and variances are a little bit trickier to go for because they are related to the unique circumstances related to a parcel. So think topography, shape, other situations that are resulting from the built environment that surround that parcel. And they would give you a deviation from the height or width of a structure, size of yard or open space, or other development standards that are the minimum necessary. Another piece about variances is that they are not restricted to residential properties, so you can request a variance for non-residential properties as well. The second mechanism to deviate from property development standards for a property owner would be an administrative relief request. So that's a minor deviation, and it is only from residential property development standards. And currently what the text says is per your zoning or a subdivision plat. Right now, you aren't allowed to exceed a 5% change, and it is an administrative request that is approved by the planning manager. So how have we gotten here? The process has evolved over time as we've managed to keep up with changing land uses. In 1992, Ordinance 92-42 created what was called minor variances. That was meant to kind of provide property owners a way to deviate from their property standards without having to meet that high threshold that's required for variances, because variances, given their nature, are very hard to obtain from the Board of Adjustment. And then another thing about that was this key language that developed in the 90s that mentioned, as shown in a recorded subdivision plat. That language is atypical. Generally, what we look for is what is approved by City Council, because that is what is regulatory, the zoning. And not every plat puts on typical lot setbacks. So this has had an interesting impact on a select number of neighborhoods within the city of Peoria. As you can see on screen, that's 10 subdivision plats, about 5 neighborhoods. They're some of the older neighborhoods within the city. Generally, all of these have either a typical lot setback or a builder-suggested setback for the properties that were put in after it was annexed. Following the 1992 establishment of minor variances, that process was then updated in 2002 and then later 2003 to become what we now call administrative relief, which made the changes we have now, limiting changes to be 5% and also allowing the planning manager to do it administratively. So this atypical interpretation has had a disproportionate effect on several of these Peoria subdivisions, which is what has prompted staff to take a renewed look at this particular section of the ordinance. The result is that property owners have had to request permission from the city to develop their property according to their zoning, rather than the more restrictive standards that are listed on a plat, which is unusual. You should be treated as all of the other properties within the same zoning district within the city. One of the issues with referring to the standards listed on a subdivision plat is that a lot of these plats don't actually address all of the property development standards that our zoning ordinance does. For example, I have what is recorded for Citrus Gardens Unit 1 plat on screen, and then a comparison with the R118 zoning, which is what it was given when it was annexed into the city in the 1970s. So you'll see that there are several things that aren't addressed: minimum lot size, maximum lot coverage, or building height. And it doesn't address what can be done, if anything at all, with an accessory building. So this doesn't really provide staff a lot of the needed guidance that we are seeking from our regulatory document. Instead, staff is proposing Text Amendment TA 19-02, which will update and clarify the text. Chief among those is, though, to remove that reference to the typical setbacks on a subdivision plat. It's an atypical interpretation of the ordinance, and we'd like to do away with it to ensure that all properties are treated the same within the city. Some of the other changes include an expansion of the modification to setbacks. So rather than 5%, staff is proposing that you are allowed to do a 10% modification from front, side, and rear setback. Usually, administrative relief is sought when there is something such as a construction error, something slightly off, or was built a little bit bigger than it should have been. So it's meant to be for minor deviations, nothing super large. So a 10% change from your setback is something that's not going to be very visible to the naked eye. Another change that staff is proposing with this text amendment is to allow a modification of 5% of the maximum lot coverage. So if you are in R18, your maximum lot coverage is 45%, and 5% of that would allow a 2.25% increase to that. So your maximum lot coverage would go to 47.25%. Again, pretty minor, really only meant to allow for the minimum expansion necessary to use the property to still enjoy your property. Another suggestion that staff has included in this text amendment is to clarify the conditions of approval. So to make sure that the planning manager has a very clear set of regulations that tell them how things can be approved, to make sure that it's a clear and fair process, that it's very transparent for both the applicant and also neighbors who might be interested in administrative relief requests that's going on in their neighborhood. So related to that, the two last changes are interrelated. So the first one is that we're proposing an updated notification radius. Currently in the zoning ordinance, the notification radius is 300 feet. So regardless of how big or how small that change might be that you're requesting, your neighbor, let's say, from 300 feet away is going to find out, even though they may never notice that you've made a modification to your property. So staff feels that that is a little bit unnecessary, and our proposal is that the notification radius be amended to only go to abutting property owners. So any of the property owners who share a property line with you would get notified. They would be the ones who are more likely to notice or be slightly impacted. Since this is a minor deviation, staff believes there shouldn't be too much of an impact on surrounding properties. The last update would be a clarification of the appeal criteria. So similar to other text amendments that staff have brought forward, such as the site plan appeal update that we did last year, clarifying that an appeal to an administrative relief request, is related to the planning manager's decision. So they're appealing that the determination might have been incorrect in its regard to the zoning ordinance or the decision. That way, we're ensuring an appeal is not outside of the scope of the actual request itself. That way, someone's not, let's say, appealing the land use itself. Since administrative relief would be allowing something that is already permitted either outright, conditionally, or as an accessory use. So just to illustrate what that might look like, for a property zoned residential R18, you're going to see some changes, but very minimal, to the maximum lot coverage and then also your permitted setbacks. So for your setbacks, it's going to be just a 1 foot deviation from what's existing, depending on whether you have a side entry or a front facing garage. And then again, your side setbacks going to be very minor. So what that would look like potentially, if you're looking from above on a site plan view, would be just a tiny smidge outward. Same thing with your maximum lot coverage. It's only enough to allow the minimum that you need to still enjoy your property. So given the impact to these neighborhoods that staff identified during the initial research for this text amendment, we've worked very hard to do public outreach. One of the things that we did was a notification sent to all of the property owners within those neighborhoods about an open house. So we held an open house on May 20th at Sunrise Mountain Library and invited anyone who was interested to come, ask us questions, trying to explain the intent and the possible impacts of this text amendment. And then subsequent to that, we sent a notification hearing to all of those property owners, which we don't typically do for text amendments since they are citywide, but we did want those property owners to feel included and to know what was going on with this process. One of the things that did come out of the open house, 5 households did attend to hear more, and so we engaged with them about what that might mean for their neighborhood and how it could potentially change. There was a request from a citizen to look into a city-initiated rezoning on behalf of that subdivision. So staff in the intervening time since May has looked into it and also coordinated with the city attorney's office on guidance from them on the best course of action leading up to that citizen request. So following guidance from the city attorney's office, it's cumbersome for the city to do a city-initiated rezoning on behalf of those private property owners. It's over 140 individual property owners. So one thing that requires is that every single property owner give us a Prop 207 waiver. It has to be all or nothing unless they were to change the boundary of that rezoning application. In addition to that, rezonings are long. They're not the quickest of processes, and we would need to ensure that every property owner maintain the status quo of agreeing to having their property rezoned. So it would be a rezone from that straight R118 zoning to a PAD to sort of enshrine the implied property standards that were put on by the developer. That way they became regulatory per the zoning. The guidance from the city attorney's office is that the best course of action is to go forward with this text amendment. And I have reached out to those particular households that came to the open house to try and provide them with additional information about the guidance from the city attorney's office, but also if they wanted to pursue the rezoning as an organization, so to speak, or from their HOA, that they could do that. That's an option that is open to them, and I've tried to provide information as I could to help them with that process. It is not a cheap process to do a rezoning, so I understand that that might not also be an option for them. But staff is trying to work with them to understand the impacts that might come from this text amendment and also find ways that they can still protect the character of their neighborhood that they feel is very important to what creates their neighborhood is unique to them. So we have sent out postcards, multiple emails. I've spoken to some people, noticed some people in the audience who wanted to attend tonight, which is why we postponed from our last meeting so that people could attend. So the key findings in regard to text amendment TA 19-02 is that this amendment ensures all properties are regulated the same within the city, just as much as the other properties that are within the same zoning district as they are. It permits modifications that allow property owners flexibility, but doesn't allow them to go outside what we would consider a minor deviation. So they're not increasing their maximum lot coverage by an additional 5%, going from 45 to 50. The updated notification radius really allows for the rights of an applicant who's requesting administrative relief while also acknowledging that the abutting property owners may have an interest, but keeps the scope of either an appeal or that request within what really is directly related to a planning manager's decision, and then ensures that the planning manager has criteria to say, this is a warranted appeal, we'll go to the Board of Adjustment. Staff's recommendation is that you approve case TA 19-02 to City Council, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Beck. Appreciate that report. Do any commissioners have any questions? We're going to begin with Commissioner Arlewski.
Yeah, a couple of questions. The variances that we've had, say, year to date, how is that? I guess where my mind is going is how many were there, how many were turned down, how does this affect those people? Homeowners that had asked and maybe got turned down.
So we looked into how many we've had that are particularly related to these particular subdivisions. It was over 122 different applications. I think only a few of them had been withdrawn. As far as I'm aware, we only have one application currently, and that one has been in limbo just to, make sure whatever the outcome with this text amendment that they are following the right process.
Okay. So if I understand this, or do you have?
Commissioner Arlewski, members of the commission, I was just going to add to that. So we're talking, you mentioned the word variances, but we're talking about administrative relief and what was previously minor variances. And this is over a period of about 30 years since this provision was put in place. We've had about 120 of those that have been submitted and reviewed by the city.
Okay. I guess I'm just trying to get an idea of how this is going to affect, or how this change affects both homeowners, in those communities and citywide. I just don't want it to, I guess where my mind goes, I don't want it to negatively affect people that may have wanted that 8% or 5% variance or change and didn't get it. Now, I guess they could come back.
Commissioner Atluski, that's a good question. So one of the things that we did write in as proposed for this text amendment is that a property owner could request both their modification from the setback and maximum lot coverage. So I think as internal, we could discuss if someone had previously done this, if they would be able to come back. I think we would probably just need to evaluate it from, is it the minor deviation they need to enjoy, an addition or the use of their property?
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Arlewski too, and like with anything, I mean, codes do change over time. So those applicants that might not have gotten administrative relief in the past, it was based on the provisions that we had at the time. So we're looking for a change. Those property owners, they certainly could come back and propose a request under the new code if we go that direction.
Thank you. Commissioner Fighter, you had a question?
Yeah, thank you. Can you provide me just one example of where this has been a conflict for a homeowner? Are we talking about like additions? Are we talking about sheds? Are we talking about carports? Can you give me an example of of a situation? Just,
Yes, so taking Citrus Gardens as an example, let me go back to that slide. So the plat does not address maximum building height. So that's for the principal and also any accessory buildings. There have been requests to build attached RV garages, which would require a deviation from the setback, side setback that's on the subdivision plat, but would be in accordance with the zoning setback. And also, the problem is, when you're putting in an RV garage, they're usually fairly large structures, even if they are attached, so it can create a feeling of closeness, if you will, with your neighbor when you're in the side yard. But according to the zoning, you would be able to put in an RV garage as long as it meets our zoning requirements. You're inside of the setback, you're under the maximum height requirement, and you follow all of the other, getting your building permits, all of that. So by following what's currently in our ordinance, there isn't a clear direction except that the person would need to apply for administrative relief to the subdivision plat standards.
Mr. Chair and just Commissioners, Commissioner Fighter, if I could add too, and this is really the crux of the whole, of a large part of this amendment, is a very unusual interpretation that was done for just a handful of subdivisions years ago. When a developer puts on the typical development plan on the plat, that's just what the developer intends to do. It was never intended to create a regulatory standard. It's just simply how they envision developing the subdivision out. As you know, when properties are rezoned, they're done by the legislative body, the council, as the one that creates standards for a neighborhood. When a plat is approved, that's not a legislative action, right? And so there's just how the developer intends to develop out the development, and whether they choose to develop out the subdivision to a more restrictive standards or to use the zoning, that's up to how they choose to develop it. But it was never intended to subvert the underlying zoning standards.
Very good. Commissioner Alsop, you have a question.
So I have a question in the case, what Chris had just given us, is if there's a conflict between a plat and a zoning, does the zoning always prevail? I guess I'm a little unclear on that.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Alsop, in my opinion, the zoning always prevails because that is the standards that were put in place by the legislative body. So, it's hard to call the typical lot diagram standards because it's just what the developer intends to develop. They're not creating standards, but through this unusual interpretation for some of these provisions, it's created some hardship over the years.
Okay. And in these cases, for example, in Citrus Gardens, is there any reasonable situation where this would it sounds like it is giving the homeowners more ability to use their property. Is there any common situation where this is restricting their ability to use the property, an unintended consequence or something like that?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Alsop, I think the complication is that homeowners that might intend to develop under their zoning, like any other property owner in the city, for these handful of subdivisions are restricted because of this interpretation. So they have to develop their property in line with a few of the standards that are even identified on the plat. So they're restricted, like developing their lot like any other property that's zoned the same way in the city. So that's a hardship they face right now. So if they choose to develop under the zoning, the process today is, well, I got to submit an application and go forward and ask for administrative relief, ask for the right to develop my property under the zoning that the city council has already provided for our subdivision. So I have to ask for that right. And if there happens to be any opposition from neighbors that might have gotten the notice, then all of a sudden that request is reclassified to a variance, which is a much different and higher standard. A variance is a quasi-judicial action, meaning all the standards that have to be met in a variance application, they're rooted in state statute, they're very difficult, they're, as Amanda had mentioned, they're based on the size, shape, topography of the property, but they're conditions that are specific to the property. And so by reclassifying a request to simply use the zoning, it does create a hardship because it's a very different test than to try to meet a variance provision, if that makes sense.
Yes, so when a homeowner maybe wants to add on to a side of their house, is it the normal practice today that when they go through review with the city, is there like a checkbox that says, is this consistent with the plat? And is that where we're having hangups? Is the interpretation of the ordinance that is referencing the plat?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Alsop, so if any permit that comes in, we simply check the zoning to see if they meet the zoning. However, we have these 10 subdivisions flagged because these are the ones that have had that unusual interpretation over the years. So in those cases, we would check the application to see if it conformed with those 4 standards. But you can see the problem up on the board here. The plat diagram doesn't speak to maximum height. So what standard do we use for maximum height? Is it 1 story? Is it 2 story? Well, the zoning would say 30 feet, which is 2 stories. But you can see there are several standards that don't provide us any guidance in reviewing that addition. So that's a testament that it was never intended to replace the zoning standards.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And we have a question from Commissioner Patterson as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Amanda, have you run these changes by the Board of Adjustment?
Commissioner Patterson, we have not spoken with the Board of Adjustment members. We have worked through the text amendment with the city attorney to make sure that what we're proposing is in line with what's already existing within the zoning ordinance for applications that go before the BOA.
Okay. It seems to be a courtesy to at least advise them that this is going forward if we approve it tonight.
Commissioner Patterson, could you restate that question? I missed that one.
If the Board of Adjustment was aware of these changes, if they supported them.
The process that we have to consider changes to the code is that we bring it to the Planning Commission, and you advise us and advise the City Council, and they would actually make the decision. What that would do would effectively it would bring the Board of Adjustment back to what their charge really is, which is to consider variances and interpretations from the planning director, if we have a difference of opinion on that.
Okay.
If I might, oh, sorry.
Sorry.
If I might add to that, Commissioner Patterson, when someone does appeal administrative relief requests, it is reclassified, as Chris stated, as a variance. So we haven't changed any of the criteria that they would review those when they go to the BOA. We're mainly just trying to clarify what happens when the planning manager looks at an application to make sure that process is clear. And then the notification radius is what we consider to be proportionate to the requested change. What the BOA will look at hasn't changed, but I hear what you're saying, and we definitely can speak to the Board of Adjustment about our proposed amendment.
Okay. I think it'd be good just as a courtesy to them to let them know about the changes. Thank you.
Very good. Vice Mayor Lusky, you have another, Vice
Yeah,
Mayor,
kind
excuse
of
me,
a-
Vice Chair Lusky. Give you a
Maybe another
promotion
way
there.
to look at this. So what I'm looking at here, let's say a developer does lay out the plat, and this one's 40-foot minimum front and back. Could be more, could be less, but the developer and most of the homes in there, that's what it was built like. So they're all set back pretty far from the road. We changed this to 20 and potentially a little bit less than 20 foot. Now, a building, garage, something goes out further in front, and it's the only house in the area that you lose that large front yard look. Maybe I'm looking at this wrong, but that's kind of one of my concerns.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Lusky, just to be really clear, we're not proposing changing the zoning. The zoning has always been R118 for this specific plat.
Okay.
What we're suggesting is that we treat this subdivision and these collection of subdivisions like we do any other subdivision within the city, is that they are guided by their zoning that's approved by the council. So we're not changing the zoning. The developer has just chosen to develop these homes in this fashion, more restrictive standards.
So today, without the approval of this, if somebody came in and said, well, my plot is 40, I want 20, we would give it to them then?
Commissioner Odlewski, members of the commission, under today's framework for this specific subdivision, if they wanted to develop under the zoning, we would say, okay, well, we flagged this for under the plat, so you would have to apply for administrative relief to have the ability to use the underlying zoning standard. So it's a very, it's a very convoluted explanation, but it's a very atypical is a good word, atypical interpretation of that provision.
So for the most part, they could get that today based on the zoning, and if we approve it, they're going to get it based on the approval of the text amendment.
Commissioner Otluski, members of the commission, and that's in fact what's happened over the 120 applications. In most cases, they have not been opposed, and so they have then the right through the administrative relief to develop under the zoning.
Okay, great, thanks.
Commissioner Fighter, you have a question?
Is there anything in here that precludes HOAs from having control over those decisions? I mean, I assume there's HOAs involved here, that they would still have their architectural review committees that this isn't affecting HOA rights in any way, shape, or form.
Mr. Chair,
Because they can
Commissioner.
be more restrictive, obviously.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Fighter, you're absolutely correct. If there's an HOA in place and they have their own specific standards, then those standards would guide.
Yeah. So the HOAs still have the opportunity to control those type of.
Correct. They would, if they have their own design review standards and they have their own process, sure.
Okay.
You have a question, Commissioner Grice? Go ahead.
So can I say that the end result is going to be, you can have the same zoning, the same rights, but how you get there is what we're talking about, the process to get to the final zoning or ability to use your property. It's just the process that we're discussing.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Grice, that's correct. I think what we're saying very simply is that we're not removing a right. We're saying that whatever zoning you have the right to develop under your zoning like any other property in the city. So that's the main thing today is just to remove that very unusual anomaly. And then as a secondary part of this amendment, we're making some adjustment, or we're suggesting some adjustments to some of the extent of the adjustments that you can request. For example, the 5%, which is today, we're suggesting that maybe 10% is an appropriate adjustment to ask for under the administrative relief. So it's really a two-part to the amendment, and then some of the process things that Amanda talked about.
So in other parts of the city, are the, like, adjustments that can be made, like the 35%, the 10%, 5%, do those currently apply in this particular zoning?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Grice, any property in the city today, they can all apply for a variance or they can apply for administrative relief. That's correct.
You're good? All right. Any further questions from the commission? All right, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing. I have one speaker request form for this item from Mr. Eshelman. Do you still wish to speak, sir?
Sir, with all due respect, I'm going to decline at this point.
Okay, very good. All right. Would anyone else like to speak on this item? We have another.
Not like to speak, but I think they want to be recognized that they're in favor.
Oh, okay. So we have Mr. Howell present who will not be speaking but wants to voice the fact that he is in favor of this item. Would you like to speak? Oh, are you Mr. Howell? Yes. Oh, if you could come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Steve Howell. I live at 8412 West Foothills. I'm in Citrus Garden 2. And she showed these setbacks earlier where it's like 20 feet from the side and 40 feet from the front. Well, you go measure the houses that are there now. Some are not 40 feet from the front, some are closer. You know, there's supposed to be a side setback of 20 feet. I measured everybody around me. My house is only 15 feet. So the zoning and everything that, or the plat that they have there, the houses and stuff don't match what the plat says anyway. And there's already been a precedent set in the area with all these other rezonings that have been going down. You know, I got a guy 4 houses down from me that just built a big garage in the back of his house. I have a guy behind me that has a second home built, you know, built to the same zoning as the Peoria zoning. There's, you know, other, you know, people that have already, you know, adopted the Peoria zoning there, so it would only make sense to go ahead and, you know, approve it so everybody's the same. So that's all I got.
All right.
Any questions for me?
Thank you for your comments, sir. Appreciate it. Appreciate you being here tonight. All right, would anyone else in the audience like to speak on this matter? Going once, going twice. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. Any further questions or comments from commissioners before I call for a motion on this item? Did you have a question? Okay. All right, may I have a motion?
Hey, Mr. Chairman, I recommend approval of case TA 19-02 to the City Council.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Commissioners. I have a motion and a second to recommend approval of item 2R, zoning ordinance text amendment case TA 19-02. With that, I'm going to call for the vote. Please vote. And it passes unanimously. Thank you, Commissioners. All right, we're going to move on to our next item now, 3R, 2019 Major General Plan Amendment, Plan Peoria AZ General Plan, GPA 19-03. This is a city-initiated major amendment to the general plan to comprehensively update the Peoria General Plan in preparation for voter ratification in the fall of 2020 and to ensure the plan remains consistent with overarching goals of the city. Ms. Deaver, I'll hand it over to you for your report.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, it is a pleasure to be back here once again 2 weeks later in front of you. So I had the pleasure 2 weeks ago to formally introduce our city-initiated general plan amendment. Tonight is the second hearing that is required by state law in which we will be asking for a recommendation from you. For members of our viewing public and those online that we would like to welcome, I'm going to quickly recap the staff report from last time and talk about some of the changes that have occurred since we last met. So the request before you is a comprehensive update to the general plan. This is in preparation for voter ratification in 2020. It's city initiated. This has been a multi-year effort, and I think we can all attest to that because you've seen this team in front of you multiple times throughout that. It's built on a lot of work, and we are asking to have this city-initiated amendment. It's going through what we call the Major General Plan Amendment cycle, which has certain notification requirements, certain state statutes that we need to meet. So how is this particular plan different? Quickly recapping our overall themes, we've introduced community wellness within this particular plan. Placemaking has grown in prominence and is interwoven throughout the document. Fiscal sustainability, it is both within our vision statement that we are proposing, it is woven throughout the goals and policies, both on the private development side, throughout on private and on city property as well. So in that regard, two things. We want to be respectful of taxpayer dollars. We also want to make sure that we're keeping those dollars within the city when we talk about employment base. If we have entertainment, retail, restaurant, so forth. We know we can't do this alone. We're going to continue to build on strategic relationships, and we want to become more resilient, adaptable, and forward-thinking in the years to come because we're looking out 10 to 20 years and beyond. In terms of deliverables and the chapters, One of the key elements that we did was a reorganization of the document. So we're no longer looking at it from a silo perspective. We've organized it within 6 key themes. Those themes have come out and it is a result of the public outreach that we have conducted. We've also looked and refined our land use categories, which is a thing of most excitement for probably just the planners within the room, but developers as well. So we've reduced the number of categories, we've opened up and expanded the range of those categories, and we are providing more specificity by talking in particular about the character that we are looking for within each of those categories. That has resulted in a significant amount of work from staff and the consultant to go through on a square mile by square mile basis. For those who like stats, that's about 250 square miles that we went page by page and inch by inch to look at, to modify that map to those new land use categories. We've also gone through, updated the goals and policies, and of course, we're not going to do this without becoming compliant with state law. We have certain regulations that we have to hit, and so we want to ensure this document met it as well. Couldn't do it without community outreach, because the general plan is not just something for staff to put on a shelf. From leadership down, city council, department staff, from our business community, from our residents, this impacts them on a daily basis, day in and day out. And so we have spent a considerable effort in terms of trying to reach out to the public to get their feedback as to what they want Peoria to be in the years to come. These are just kind of a sampling of the methodologies that we used in order to go out to the public to hear back from them. We are required by state law to go out for what we call 60-day review, and that's to allow agencies 60 days in which to review a draft document and provide comments. In addition to that, we opened it up for the entire public as well to go onto the website, to get a hard copy. We went out. They had the ability for 60 days to officially provide us comments, but we haven't stopped listening from there, and you'll see some of those changes reflected tonight as well. We did hear from the city of Surprise. They said thank you very much for the amount of collaboration that has occurred to date, and we look forward to continuing that relationship down the road. There were some map questions and some document modifications, and we made those as appropriate. When from that 60-day draft, what we presented to you in 2 weeks ago, roughly, we changed some grammatical errors and typos. We got rid of some. We looked at the land use category. We made some refinements, and we made some map adjustments. Again, we're not done talking to our stakeholders, and that has resulted in additional changes. And so let me start with what are the differences in the plan this evening. First one is smart growth for Chapter 3. We added a section to address aggregates, mining operations. That is one of the things that we should be cognizant of, because you need those aggregates in which to have construction. Those are a critical item. So we've provided resources, identified resources within the document that any resident or any business owner or anybody within the city can find where we have aggregates and where mining operations would occur within the city. The next one is the Chapter 8 implementation. We have kind of refined the policy table. That is because there is ongoing work with our livability initiative captains and with leadership and beyond to define actionable items within the next couple of years. And so we've modified the tables in order to get ready to have that feedback incorporated within the document. For Figure 5 circulation map, I'm going to touch on this briefly and come back to it in the next slide. The city has what we call the Capital Improvements Program, and we have a number of projects that occurred during the year. One of those particular projects was to hire a consultant to review the Joe Max Road alignment east and west of Loop 303. This was ongoing during our entire update process, and they, as of a little bit ago, provided a recommended alignment to city staff. We have then scrambled to reincorporate that new recommended alignment within our circulation map. So it is a change, and that is because of studying of additional topography in the area and lining up with additional projects on both sides of Loop 303. That does result in some changes, which I'll talk about briefly, but it's primarily just a change to the circulation map. And then if you want, I'll show you a graphic here shortly. The last one is Figure 8, community map. We inadvertently did not have that figure within the last plan. It is now in there. We also went back and made sure we had a cross-reference within that section as well. The community map tells you about the fire stations, the police facilities, and so forth. And we thought that was a helpful map to include in there. So subsequent to the October 3rd meeting, we had a request, one request with 2 changes. This is from one of our stakeholders that we have continued ongoing conversations to date. The first one is kind of a weird anomaly, and I can say it is how it happened. When we looked at modifying the map, we did so through PDFs, and it was square mile by square mile, and depending on where the alignment hit on the page, you could have overlapping areas and you didn't know it, and so if we drew a line over here, it may not have gotten caught over here when we incorporated it into the mapping. All that to say is we have a very strange commercial area adjacent to park open space, and that would be the Beardsley Canal. You're looking at the 303 from around Westland all the way down to Joe Max. And so you have this very odd commercial piece adjacent to the Beardsley Canal, which is difficult to build because of the changing in topography at that location. So what we are asking for is just to cut that commercial off, make a park open space. We will relook at that once the development proposal comes in to see if that area is developable once we have additional engineering and planning that has occurred at that point in time. But right now, we're just asking to extend the park open space category across the way, so to speak. The next one is a difference in property ownership. And so again, this is split kind of between the Beardsley Canal. You have one property owner with a piece, this little remnant piece that sits across from the canal. What they have asked us is, okay, the adjacent parcel is employment, business, commerce. We had it as suburban ranch. Can you just extend that employment over to us? And we said, yes, that makes sense. So these 2 particular changes we feel are minor in nature. We think that this puts us in the best possible position going forward for right now until we have additional data. We may look at one additional map change, and I will highlight it in terms of things that I think may change for City Council. Because I did talk about that Joe Max Road alignment. So I don't have a mouse, but I'm going to hopefully I can describe it well enough to you. Down towards the bottom of the map, kind of the north-south alignment, that's 303. At the very bottom, you see a little diamond area. As the road heads east, and it goes across that Beardsley Canal, which is blue, it starts to kind of curve up, goes across to Wash. There's kind of a yellow and then a pink color, and then it goes across to the much larger Wash area. That alignment is no longer there because of that engineering study. It is much further down, okay? What the property owner, the same property owner, has asked us as of about this morning is the commercial no longer makes sense because you no longer have an arterial and a collector connection to really feed that commercial use. You're up and away now because of the alignment change, and so commercial doesn't make sense. What they would like us to do is modify that to the suburban residential to extend the suburban residential category. So our consultant was unable to make the change, but that is one of the items that we will be asking City Council to incorporate as we go forward in November 12th. We think that would be an appropriate change, because that commercial, as we have it shown, does not make sense because the arterial and the collector connection is significantly to the south. And so the disposition, typically commercial, would like to have visibility from the roadway. Access becomes an issue. You're going to want certain number of rooftops. So that's why we're going to be making that change in the next iteration at City Council. That is kind of a long-winded conversation, sorry. Those items are summarized in an actual map that you have on your dais in front of you. So with that, I'm going to talk about the key findings, and then I'm going to ask for a recommendation, including that updated map that you have on the desk there. So key findings. This is a comprehensive update in preparation for the voter ratification in 2020. We think it is an overall great improvement to what we have for the general plan, and it is not solely for the good or the benefit for a particular landowner or owners at this particular point in time. And it is in conformance with the goals, objectives, and policies within the existing Peoria general plan. So with that, it would be my honor to ask the commission for the recommendation to approve case GPA 1903 to City Council with the updated map as I've provided to you this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Deaver. And just a point of clarification, so when we state the motion, we need to state that specifically, include the figure 2 in there? Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to open up to questions from commissioners now. Commissioner Alsop, you have a question?
Thank you. I feel like I should know this, but I don't. If the zoning changes from, a landowner's current zoning is changed by this to something they did not want, do they have the option to be grandfathered in to maintain what they previously were at when they purchased the property?
So Commissioner Alsop, this general plan amendment does not change existing zoning. What this does is it changes the future land use category, or the land use category that sits above the zoning. So zoning talks about your building heights, your setbacks, your specific land uses. The general plan is a higher level discussion. We kind of pinpoint typical character areas and typical uses, but it doesn't get into the details of the zoning. In no way, shape, or form does this general plan amendment impact existing zoning as it is today. So if we have converted a property from their existing land use to something new and they don't like that land use, they always have the ability to reach out to us throughout this entire process to communicate that and to recommend a change. We then look at it from a staff perspective because it impacts multiple departments. It impacts our traffic division. It impacts, for our park standpoint, if it's a residential community. Economic development will sometimes look at this particular one. So across the board, if somebody's going to make a change like what we've shown you this evening, then it's a team effort to evaluate it, and we do look, and when it's appropriate, we will make that change going through.
So if there's a conflict in the general plan goal and a landowner's current zoning, the current zoning prevails?
Commissioner Alsop, let me give you a specific question. If an existing property is zone C2, like a typical commercial corner would be, and for some reason the general plan showed them as residential, if they already have the existing zoning C2, they can go ahead and build under that C2 category. If for some reason that C2 category is not what they're looking for and then they want to make a change, then they would have to modify both the general plan and the zoning at the same time, because those two need to be in alignment. When we take this before you, a general plan and a rezoning request and to City Council, the City Council cannot approve a rezoning request unless it's in conformance with the general plan. So those two should act in harmony, but when existing zoning is in place, we don't modify that. They can go and develop as they are today.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Fighter, you have a question?
Two quick things. One, I assume because the zoning isn't changed, there's no Prop 207 issues if somebody is technically down, not down zone, but down land area. If you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. If somebody was, the old plan had commercial and now they're residential or park open space, is there? I assume because their zoning doesn't change that we're safe on that front.
You are correct, sir. It's not a Prop 207 issue in that regard. And so, again, the zoning doesn't change in place. They can always develop as is. One of the things, the reason why we do the enhanced notification for these types of amendments is to try to extend out and receive when we're going to have an issue with somebody, have the opportunity for them to communicate to us what their desire is, and then we work with them on that particular change. So that's why we do such an extended outreach process for these type of amendments.
And then just one follow-up, the other way, where in the one graphic you had like land area 2 that you had shown. We just basically made their entitlements in the future a lot easier because they don't have to go through any general plan amendment, because we're basically accounting for it in this event here, correct?
Commissioner Fighter, that is correct for those properties that have wanted to reposition themselves for the future, and staff thought it would be an appropriate change at this point in time, and it met what the city's objectives were. We did incorporate those requests within the amendment.
I hope they said thank you. That's a nice deal for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Patterson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know that a major plan update like this, particularly in a high-growth area like Peoria, can be very, very controversial. And I think the fact that we're not seeing any controversy at either one of our public hearings is really saying a lot about the staff outreach and your responsiveness to the stakeholders. And I just want to say, great job on getting us to this point. And good luck with the election.
All right, any further? Seeing none, I'm going to open the public hearing on this item. I don't have any speaker request forms. Have we received any? All right, would anyone from the audience like to speak to this item? Going once, twice. All right. I'm going to close the public hearing. Last opportunity, commissioners. Any last questions, comments, concerns before we take a vote?
So I guess for the benefit of people that are watching this live or recorded, this has been a long process. I think I was at one of the first meetings at groups where we're putting sticky notes everywhere, and it's been fun to watch this. The second time in my life I got to do this with a city, and this was so much better. It makes the other one look like a bunch of guys sitting in a smoky room just making decisions. You guys have really taken your time, put it out there, and made sure that everybody knew what was coming. So I think from our perspective, or my perspective at least, this is an amazing plan, and I look forward to hopefully being in Peoria a long time to watch it kind of come to fruition.
Thank you. Any other comments? I always say, you can add to the conversation, just don't repeat what the speaker before you said, but I'm going to say ditto on all of what you've heard. I'm going to break my own rule. Growth is coming to this city whether we want it or not, and sometimes I'll be the first to confess. I'm sitting on Thunderbird Road coming home at 5 o'clock, and I'm not the biggest fan of growth, but I know it's coming, and so you have to plan for it. You have to do it in a smart, thoughtful manner, and I think this plan has done that. So hats off to staff, Lori, the rest of the team. Special thanks to all the residents, the business owners, the property owners, I'm sure many others that I'm forgetting who've contributed to the process, provided their, so anyway, I really appreciate the work of this commission. We've looked at this more than a few times, and great questions. I'm so proud to serve with all of you. Great work from the whole team. So with that, I'm going to call for a motion.
Okay, well, it'd be my pleasure to recommend approval of GPA 19-03 to the City Council with the updated, I'll just quote it, Figure 2, future land use map.
Thank you. There's a motion on the table. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion, a second, and a second. Commissioners, please vote. Wonderful, and it passes unanimously. All right. We're going to move on to our final item tonight, item 4R, Project Update Census 2020. This is a staff briefing and possible discussion regarding the city's efforts to work closely with the Census Bureau and its regional partners at MAG. For those of you who don't know what that stands for, that's the Maricopa Association of Governments, to promote the upcoming census. Staff, please present your report.
Yep, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, I'll do this one. So with the nicer weather, that means we're coming upon the end of a year and we're happen to be on the doorstep of a new decade. So that means that it's time to look forward to the next decennial census that will be conducted in 2020. So the census, as you may know, has been conducted every decade since 1790. It's enshrined in the Constitution, and it requires that the Census Bureau make an attempt to count every person in the United States. So why is the census important? It's important for a variety of reasons. The biggest one is the apportionment of representatives in the U.S. House of Representatives. In fact, based on growth trends that we're seeing nationally, all the states that are identified in green, which includes the state of Arizona, is expected to pick up an additional seat as a result of the 2020 census. Those in pink, unfortunately, are looking to lose a seat, and those in, dark green, brown, are seen as picking up 2 seats, Florida and Texas there. Also with the census numbers, that then triggers a process of redistricting, and we look at redrawing our political boundaries. Everything from the legislative boundaries, school district boundaries, even our city council boundaries will have to be redrawn as a result of the census. We use the census also to inform, businesses use it, public agencies use it to make informed planning and organizational decisions. And also, and very importantly, census figures are used to distribute federal dollars to all the cities, or to all the states rather, which then also come to cities in the form of state shared revenues. And state shared revenues, of course, are a large part of our budget and are used for police and fire and operational support. So what is the, let me just catch up here. So what is the impact of census? So there was a study done by George Washington University. It's called Counting for Dollars 2020, and they looked at what is the impact of the census numbers on all of the states. And so they looked at spending by state for 55 federal programs. So these are 55 federal programs that use the 2010 census to allocate funding to each of the states. And so based on fiscal year 2016, Arizona received $20.5 billion in those 55 federal programs. And so if you look at it on a per capita basis, each person counted equates to about $3,000 per capita annually, or $30,000 per capita per decade. So it's very important that we count every person living in the city. The programs that are impacted, what you see on the screen are just a handful of them, but there's a number of federal and state programs related to housing, financial assistance, child care, education, transportation, and really it's across the board. So it's very important that we have a great effort to count everybody. There are some things new with the census. Technology's changed a little bit, so for the first time, we can all take the census online. So everybody will be given a PIN number, I suppose, and you can use that number to go online to answer your questionnaire. If you don't want to do this online, you also now have the ability to do it by phone, or you can mail in your results, or if you don't want to do either of the three, well, then at some point the Census Bureau is going to come and do an in-person interview. They're going to try to contact you. So that's what's new this year, is the online mechanism. The census is going to be published in 13 languages online. In Arizona, as you would expect, both English and Spanish. What else is new with the census? This piece isn't really new, but I was surprised. If y'all recall the long form, the so-called long form that would go to a sample of people in the past, I guess the long form hasn't been in existence since 2000. So that was something that I learned new. And, so what we've been doing is what's called the American Community Survey. So every year the Census Bureau does a very small sample of the population, and the questions are much more extensive, and they use that not to reapportion seats, of course, but to use it to inform us on various attributes of our community. All right, so the one question that there's been a lot of attention in the news, let's say, is the so-called citizenship question. So I just wanted to provide you an update on that. Just to note, the citizenship question has not been a part of the census since 1950. The administration approved a plan to ask the question, is this person a citizen of the United States? That decision then triggered a series of legal battles. The U.S. Supreme Court ultimately took up that battle in June of this year, and they decided to block that question. So that question has been resolved. It will not be part of the 2020 census moving forward. I know that did cause some trepidation in the community in terms of the willingness to fill out a census questionnaire. So just to answer that question, that has been resolved. Another thing that is important to address as we do our campaign is the confidentiality of it. There's a lot of, as you would imagine, a lot of trust issues about whether their answers on the census are truly confidential. And so what we can report is they are. They're required to be confidential under federal law. In fact, it's a crime if Census Bureau employees were to report census information. So this information is protected for 72 years. Why 72 years? Well, that was the average lifespan of a person when this provision was put in place. So after that time, presumably the person isn't around to contest that, but it's locked up for 72 years. And so when I say locked up, the law enforcement agencies do not have the ability to ask for that information. Public safety, the courts can't even subpoena that information. That information is locked down for that period of time. And as you can see on the screen, the census staff take an oath. And so any obstructions of that, then there are some potential penalties, as you can see, including possible prison time. One of the things we learned as we talked with census staff is actually one of the most undercounted segments of our population is children under the age of 5. In fact, in the 2010 census, 5% of the kids, or about 1 million people, were undercounted or not counted. Highest of any age segment. And so that undercount over all the different census years has been a persistent issue. And so as you can imagine, that undercount has implications for representation. It also has implications for all the funding programs. A lot of those funding programs are directed towards kids through education, financial assistance, and so forth. And so it's something that that certainly our community and the census wants to try to take a special effort to make sure those populations are counted. Okay, so how do we get the word out? You might have heard recently Governor Ducey issued an executive order. They've established a 23-member statewide complete count committee. So these are influential representatives statewide that are going to work with the local communities to try to get the word out about and inform the public about the importance of the census. There's also regional collaboration. The Census Bureau is working with MAG, or Maricopa Association of Governments, and its member agencies. City of Peoria, of course, is a member agency of MAG. MAG has procured Reister, who is a company that they're using to promote census awareness. You might already see some of those ads out there under iCount is the advertising slogan they're using. So along with a regional effort to get the word out, each of the member agencies of MAG is also committed to forming their own complete count committee. So the city of Peoria has also formed a complete count committee. And when we formed this complete count committee, we wanted to make sure it was representative of the whole community. And so it included members from the Peoria Unified School District, through higher education. We've got some nonprofits. We've got the media to help us try to get the word out. The faith-based community is very important, particularly in some of these areas that are persistently undercounted. They're very important in that regard. The business community and then other influencers. So we meet monthly. And what the count committee does is they're trusted voices. They help advise us on how to get the word out, what kinds of events can we attend to inform people. And then ultimately, we look to them to be our ambassadors because, unfortunately, people don't always want to talk to the government, right? They want to talk to their church leader or somebody in their community. And so they can help us get the word out and be a contact point for us. All right, and then the last slide I have here is the key dates of the census. So right now, we're in I'd say the trust building and education phase of the census outreach. August through October. It may still be occurring now. The Census Bureau is actually out in the community conducting what they call a canvass. And so that might be confusing to some people out there. You might see some census personnel. What they're really doing is just, they have a sampling of addresses out there that they're trying to confirm that the address is where it says it is. They can use, they've got all kinds of aerial data that they've procured from all the agencies and the cities, but there's been lots of growth and they just want to confirm those addresses are in fact out there. In April 1st is what they call Census Day 2020, but all of us will begin getting notification and the ability to go online to fill out our census as early as March 12th. So that's actually when it'll start. So you'll start getting notification around that point, and March 12th is the earliest you can go on and fill out your census questionnaire. May through July, the Census Bureau is going to start following with households that perhaps did not utilize the other 3 mechanisms to fill out the questionnaire. By August of 2020, they're going to start doing their quality assurance of all the numbers they've gotten. The numbers are due to the president by the end of the year, and then the state expects to have those figures by end of first quarter of 2021. So hopefully we'll be finding out what our population count for Peoria is sometime spring of 2021. So with that, that is a schedule at large of the census. Certainly look ahead. There's going to be a lot of information that we're trying to get out in the community. If you have any suggestions on how we can get the word out, I'd be happy to hear from you. And with that, that's all I have.
Thank you for your report. Any commissioners have any questions regarding what we just heard? Mr. Hawkins, how can we as a commission, as commissioners individually, help the city ensure thorough participation in the census? What you ask of us?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, you can help in a number of ways. In fact, we have the Complete Count Committee that I mentioned is a fluid committee, and it's a nimble committee. So we're always looking for members. So to the extent there's any interest in joining the committee and helping to advise us, we'd certainly be willing to consider your interest there. Also, I think to help get the word out and inform the public, and to the extent the various people you talk to about the truth of the census, the fact that it's confidential, I think that's a big thing we have to get out there to implore people that it does result in a direct benefit to them in terms of the dollars that we get into the state and the programs that it impacts. So it's important to try to get the word out.
Thank you. And one other question, or actually I got a couple other. Any idea why kids under 5 are undercounted? I'm curious to why that is.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission,
you don't know. It's okay,
no, that's a great question. We've talked about that with our committee and read some literature too. Some of the ideas out there is that, when children under the age of 5, they're not in the school system yet, they're not official, if you were, and so sometimes us as parents, in protecting them, I guess, don't think of them as members that they want to then register, right, or put out there on the form. Also, I think it could be. It could be that they're just, I think that's probably the main reason, but there might be some others too.
All right, interesting. All right, appreciate that. And then assuming our population increases, as I suspect it will, I guess it's probably just a matter of how significantly. When would we see the financial benefit of that, meaning more state dollars? Is that the following fiscal year? Is it later in the calendar year? How does that work?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, that's a great question. So as I mentioned, we should find out our official count as of end of first quarter, start of second quarter of 2021. I'm not sure how that cycle then, in terms of when does it affect the state shared revenue? I can find out though. That's a great question. I'd certainly like to know that.
Okay. Yep. Very good. Appreciate the report. Very interesting. All right. No other questions? All right, we're going to move on to our next item then. That's call to the public on non-agenda items. Would anybody out in the public like to speak on any non-agenda items? All right, seeing none, we're going to move on to reports from staff. Go ahead, staff.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I have the honors. So we would like to invite you to the next meeting at November 7th. I will be back here, same time, same place. We are looking at canceling the November 21st meeting to be back then in December for December 5th. And that's all that we have this evening. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, next is Planning and Zoning Commission updates and report of current events. Do any commissioners have any updates on relevant events or activities they want to share with the commission? All right, seeing none and seeing no further business, I call this meeting adjourned.